In this video, guys, I'm going to break down exactly why following a low carb diet 99% of the time will lead to you failing at some point. And it might not be straight away, but I mean, at some point, maybe it's in 6 months, maybe it's in 6 weeks, maybe it's in 6 years, you will most likely gain the weight back. I've seen this happen so many times, and actually what a smart approach looks like when it comes to your nutrition, okay? Now, firstly, before I go further with this is exactly the life I live, guys, okay? I don't do low carbs. There's been one distinct period in my life where I followed keto for literally 4 weeks because I couldn't even follow it for any longer, just as a bit of a test. And I did not enjoy it whatsoever. I probably started to feel some very small benefits as I got towards the end of the 4 to 6 weeks, where I might have started to feel my energy levels pick up a little bit more, but honestly, it just was not worth what it took to even go and get there in the first place. And in my opinion, it was never ever gonna be sustainable anyway. And especially not with my life now, with doing high rocks, doing lots of running, where literally glycogen and carbohydrates are my biggest fuel source. I would not be able to do the level of running and the intensity that I train at with a low carb diet, okay? I'm not gonna take my shirt off now and show you guys what I currently look like. I'm gonna put lots of photos on the screen now of my physique, what my physique is like over the last 10 years. As you can see, guys, I've always been in shape. I've always been around 10 to 12% body fat pretty much all year round. And I'm telling you now, I have always had carbohydrates every single day in my diet, sometimes huge amounts of carbohydrates, maybe when I've been looking to try and build muscle or I've been focusing on performance, sometimes other periods a little bit less, but honestly, probably never more than less than 200 grams per day is like a baseline when it comes to carbohydrates. And also to kind of back this up, I'm just gonna put on all the transformations of all the guys that we've worked with at FitLab now, and I'm gonna show you that these guys were not on low carb diets. Absolutely none of them. Not one of them was on a keto diet, not one of them was on a really low carb diet. They were eating carbohydrates every single day, rice, pasta, bread. They were having, you know, pizza if they wanted to have it every now and then as well. They weren't cutting any kind of foods out. Yes, the most of the foods they were eating were quality carbohydrates, but there was no restriction under that as well in any way whatsoever. And we've even had gents come on the program before and insist on following keto, and you know, carbs bloat them and they don't work with carbohydrates. And we've corrected things very quickly. We've almost let them somewhat fail to see that the low carb doesn't work. This is what we actually do. And then literally within a couple of weeks of having carbs within their diet, they have felt so much better, okay? Now, there may be some of you out there that are watching this and thinking, well, I've done low carbs for ages, I've been on keto for a long time and it works for me. Great, you might be in the minority where actually ketosis is something that you can sustain and you've built a lifestyle around that. But honestly, having coached thousands and thousands of men by this point, I'm telling you now that most men have not got the ability to follow a low carb diet for the foreseeable. And even if they can follow it for a short period of time, there will be some point where they naturally rebound and gain the weight back at some point in their lives. And there are lots of reasons for that as well. Now, what I don't understand when it comes to this, guys, is that there is no real benefit to a low carb diet. There is no real benefit. Like, if your goal is that you just want to get in good shape and you want to improve your body composition and you want to get a six pack, right? You don't need to follow low carbs. I don't understand why this has even become something that's become such a trend, why people have like demonized carbs so much, because you don't need to have a low carb diet. There literally are studies to show that if you match a high carb and a low fat diet with high protein, or a high fat and a low carb diet with high protein, the fat loss results are literally pretty much identical. They are not that much different, right? So why would you, if you had to eliminate a food group, why would you decide to do that? It doesn't make any sense. It's only ever gonna make your life less fun, have more issues, have more resistance in doing certain things. For what reason? Yes, we can go on the lines of insulin and energy levels and insulin sensitivity, all these kind of things and stuff. But realistically, guys, if you know what type of carbs to eat, when to eat them, and you still eat relatively clean foods, you're not gonna find it's that much of an issue. Your energy levels are not gonna be that unstable that you go through feeling really sluggish. I'm not saying you should eat crap carbs and have lots of sweets and have lots of cereal, this kind of stuff that does spike your insulin levels a lot faster. If you know what type of foods you should be eating, your rices, your sweet potatoes, those types of foods that will not have a huge impact on your energy levels. They're good quality, nutrient dense whole foods that you can have within your diet without causing any fat gain. And what you'll see is that at some point further down the line, you'll get to a position where just not having carbs becomes really difficult to sustain. That might be going out for a meal with your friends where there's just not that many options on the menu that don't have carbohydrates. Maybe you just want to have the pasta, the bread, the pizza, the ice cream. The amount of restriction that has to go in to maintain a low carb diet is super high. And for some people that have got that elite level of discipline that really want to push towards the ketosis and they feel their brain and everything functions so much better without carbs, maybe for them that is the route that they can take. But I know myself personally, my friends, people that I've spoken to, all my clients, I know that that is not something that they can sustain or want to sustain for the foreseeable when it comes to following and maintaining a low carb diet. And as I said, as a result of doing it, what is the actual benefit? What are you trying to get out of it? Just saying that you don't have carbs, like why? If you can have a six pack and you can sustain 12% body fat or 15% body fat all year round by including carbohydrates within your diet, why would you not do that? That's my argument when it comes to this. I don't understand why. If it literally was preventing you from maintaining a lean physique, then yeah, I get it. There may be a little bit more of an argument to not consuming them. But when carbohydrates don't stop you from staying lean, why would you not want to include certain foods within your diet if you like those foods? And what people don't want to have a slice of bread every now and then, or want to be able to even have some fruit, you know, and be able to enjoy that sometimes. If we're in serious ketosis, guys, your carbohydrates often have to be less than 50 grams per day. It's person dependent, but 50 grams of carbs per day is incredibly low. You could literally have an apple and a banana and that will take you out of your state of ketosis. To demonize carbs is the wrong thing to do. And the reason why carbs have this kind of stigma that they are bad is because often foods that are high in carbohydrates are often the wrong foods to eat. So people, you know, eat things like pasta, like pizza, like ice cream, these foods. The carbs in these meals are not what make people fat and what make people gain weight. The amount of calories that people consume. And the thing we have to remember with carbohydrates, if we consume them in high amounts, if we maybe don't have a lot of protein alongside, or we don't have a lot of healthy fats, they will spike your appetite. That's what happens. Insulin spikes, your appetite spikes, your body almost craves more food. So often what happens is it becomes almost like a bottomless pit when you start eating carbohydrates, and then you want to eat more and more and more carbohydrates, so you actually eat too many calories, and then as a result you gain the fat. And that is not a result of the carbohydrates, it's the result of you eating too many calories. So the differentiation is the calories, which ultimately are always the driver in weight gain, not the carbohydrates. You could eat a diet solely based on carbohydrates, but still be within a calorie deficit, and you would still lose weight. And I wouldn't recommend you do that because you're probably going to lose a lot of muscle, but you would still lose weight on the scales if you were in a calorie deficit. So the right way to look at it, guys, is it's including carbohydrates in your diet. It's having moderate carbs within your diet every single day, knowing what carbs to eat so that you can enjoy your diet, you can keep it sustainable, it doesn't feel like it's super restrictive, and you can still get amazing results at the same time. That is the smartest way of approaching it. And if you really want to dive in on when to have carbohydrates and how to utilize them as best as possible, then this would be starting to look into your workout windows. You know, if you do find that your energy levels and you feel a little bit more stable having lower carbohydrate meals, which is actually often how I do sometimes feel, where I might decide if I'm not really doing that much exercise in the morning, I'll prioritize fats and proteins as like a breakfast. And then I find that I'm a little bit more cognitively functioned in a better place. I've got a little bit more energy, a bit more brain power. And then I find that if I space the carbohydrates and maybe have them around my workout windows, that's when I can utilize them as best as possible, because we actually want to spike insulin around workouts, specifically if you're weight training, that is a very anabolic response that we can give our body before training, which is going to help obviously when it comes to muscle growth. So tactically, if you want to implement an aspects of a low carb diet, you can do that by having potential meals where you've got less carbs, but around your workout windows, you know, glycogen is the primary energy source for our bodies. And this is what gets broken down when we consume carbohydrates. So having them around your workouts, guys, it makes complete sense to do that. That is our energy source. And going into where we need to look at things next, if your goal is that you want to get more into the performance side of things, like look at how popular Hyrox is now, look at how popular running is now. If you want to be pushing your body into these higher intensity levels where our heart rate is increased, we're not going to be burning fat. Ketosis doesn't work when you're in a higher heart rate zone, guys. You can't use ketones when you're working at a very, very high intensity. We need to have glycogen if we want to perform at our best. So maybe in a fat loss phase, if you really feel and you're doing a lot of zone 2 cardio, a lot of low intensity steady state cardio, possibly at that point you can kind of keep carbs a little bit lower. But at some point, you're probably gonna wanna get into more performance. I always recommend this to clients. Get lean, get in shape first, focus on fat loss. Once we're lean, we're gonna focus more on performance, running, getting stronger, building muscle. All those things, guys, this is where carbohydrates need to be utilized. You need to have carbs to be able to grow muscle faster. As I say, insulin is a huge anabolic hormone when it comes to getting results. So we want to be making sure that we know how to drive that when it comes to your workouts. Obviously with your running and your high rocks and stuff, guys, if I wasn't eating high amounts of carbohydrates around some of my workouts, they're absolutely savage. There's no way I'd be able to train at the level of intensity that I could. I can't even imagine trying to run keto on the way that I'm training with my body right now, and the intensity of some of these workouts, which are hugely carb dependent workouts where I'm depleting glycogen. You know, even some of my zone 2 workouts, where zone 2, zone 3, where we're kind of working on longer runs where I'm starting to push up a little bit. It's not possible to run this on a low carb diet, guys. I need carbohydrates. I need to be able to function. So if you're wanting to push your body to become more of a hybrid athlete and start working towards high rocks, running, you know, triathlon, all that kind of stuff, you're not going to do that with a low carb diet. And if at some point inevitably carbs are going to come back into your diet, why would you start with a low carb diet and have that level of restriction? For what reason? It doesn't make any sense. So overall, guys, as you can kind of see here from me explaining this, you don't need to follow low carbs. Carbs have never been the reason why people have got fat. Carbs do not make you fat. They do not stop you losing weight. They are not the devil when it comes to fat loss and body composition. They need to be moderated. They need to be understood of what carbs that you should have, maybe the best times to have them, but they do not need to be cut out. Because if you do something that feels restrictive, you're following something that at some point you feel that you're gonna have to stop at some point, that's when the weight's always gonna come back on, okay? You wanna build a lifestyle, not a diet plan that you're gonna follow for 12 weeks and then stop. You build a lifestyle with a food in that you enjoy, being inclusive of all food groups so that you can sustain that for the rest of your life. You can start to push more towards performance, getting stronger, getting fitter, and using carbohydrates as the fuel source to really improve and benefit and get those workouts to be as optimal as possible. So anyway, guys, I hope you found this video useful. As always, make sure you smash the like button, make sure you subscribe for future videos, and I'll catch you in the next one.